You're listening to the So What? Why It Matters podcast with Nancy Hicks. Each week we'll ask the question, so what? And dive into the answers of why it matters with Nancy and her guest. Are you ready for some honest conversation about the so what's in your life? Then let's get to it. Here's Nancy.
Hi there, Nancy Hicks here. Welcome back to So What? Why It Matters. So today, we're going to turn our thoughts toward how we can care for another part of ourselves, our spiritual lives, our souls. Our souls need more care than any other part of us. Now, of course, we don't separate our lives into parts, but your soul is the center of it all. And that fire, that core, give us the energy to pursue love and joy and good things and good work and every other thing that makes our lives so rich. And in the dark times, that fire lights the way for us to see the way forward. When we don't care for our souls, that flame gets a little more dim and a little more dim until we can hardly perceive it. At that point, we're only a shadow of who we could be. In the summer, I needed to take some time off. My son, David, going through his cancer treatment, stage 4 colon cancer, and of course, the pandemic. And Cam and I were struggling a lot. I was just spent. And so that month of July, I just unplugged. I literally just stopped just about everything as far as work goes. And I would sit in the garden every day. And sometimes for hours, but certainly in the morning, I would just sit with the Lord. And sometimes I'd read scripture. And sometimes I would just sit there and I'd look out at the trees. We have a wooded backyard. And I would just say to God, I don't have much to say, but I am here. And I am listening for you. Please speak to me. And it was a really, really profound time for me to just connect with God, to hear his voice. So my guest today is Bunmi Laditan. You may know her as the writer behind the hilarious social media accounts called The Honest Toddler. If you don't know that, you must check it out. She's a super accomplished woman, a very talented writer, and a very busy mother of 3. And by the way, for those Canadians listening, she lives in Montreal. Bunmi has just written a beautiful new book called Dear God, Honest Prayers to a God Who Listens, and talk about real. She is someone who's wandered. She makes no bones about it. She is someone who has struggled. She is someone who has walked away, but she got to the other side. And maybe you're someone who can relate to that today. I know that you're really going to enjoy what Bunmi has to say to us today. So without further ado, here's my conversation with Bunmi Laditan. Bunmi, I am so excited to have you on, and I am thrilled for whoever is listening, for you who are listening, to get to experience this time with Bunmi Laditan. We are going to have a blast. And Bunmi, I'm thrilled because, frankly, first of all, let's just start with first things first. I'm Canadian originally. Did you know that?
I did not know that. And I'm so happy to be here.
So you're living in Quebec, huh?
Yes, I'm in French Canada from California. I was born and raised in California. Now I'm in French Canada.
How long have you been there?
I've been here 10 years.
Ooh.
Yes.
Okay, we kind of swapped places, girl, because, I grew up, was born, raised, bred in Little Italy in Toronto.
Wow.
Graduated from the University of Toronto. And then 20 years ago, we moved to the US. Do you think, having lived in both of these countries, both in North America, we go, oh yeah, they're all the same. They're both the same. No.
And they have their pros and cons, but being from California, even the states are different. Like California, we're raised as super kind of breezy and yeah, it's cool, yeah. And we're just like really relaxed. I remember the first time I went to New York City and it was like, why is everyone walking so fast? And how come no one's smiling?
Oh, yeah.
And I do miss things about the States. I miss Target. I miss Trader Joe's. I love Tim Hortons. I do. Even though it's different now, It's a little different. Like, I think it was like bought, but still Tim Hortons just gives me this warm feeling.
Yeah, I have to tell you, of course, Tim Hortons for me too. And when I'm back in Canada, I have to go to always Tim Hortons. My sister gets a little tick. She's like, it's not the same, like you just said. It's not the same as it once was, but I still love it. Yes. I still have to get a coffee there. And my husband usually wants to get like an apple fritter or something, whatever. Yeah. All right. Okay. So we both get the Canada, US thing. We both love both nations. They both have their strengths. So don't be like sending us nasty emails, you know.
Oh, no. The US is like my childhood home, you know. Yes, a little dysfunctional at times, but it's home. And it made me who I am, made me strong. Because in the US, you learn to just like say what you think. You know, Canadians are so polite. They're so polite here. You'll get to one of those 4-way stops and nobody moves. Everyone's like, after you. And me being the American, I'm like, this is 7 a.m. We don't have time for this. Like, I'm going.
And even you from California originally. Okay, yes. Fine. All right. Don't talk. I've always been on the East Coast. I don't know.
I know.
So I am like, come on, move it.
I know. I love both. I love the politeness down here. Like, everyone's so calm. And, you know, I think it's winter too. You can't even breathe the air outside in the winter. Your nostrils stick together.
It's true, especially up in Quebec. Toronto is a lot more south, right? It's not as cold.
That's right.
Okay, so I want to know, since we're talking about winter, and since we're talking about cold, and since we're talking about all these things, how did you get to Canada? 10 years ago, how'd you get there?
So my ex, his mom is Quebecois. So we came here, I visited first. I visited Montreal and I fell in love with it. I just like got off the plane and was like, oh,
so chic.
Oh my goodness, the baguettes, real baguettes. And there's this bakery called Premier Moisson. I don't even know what it means. Like, Premier is like first. I don't know what Moisson means. Probably means like magical.
Moisson, I don't know either. And I should maybe know that.
I should know. Trust
I don't
me,
know, but your French is quite lovely, my dear.
Très bien.
Très bien.
Merci beaucoup. My kids make fun of me. They think my accent is so bad, but I've been so we moved here like 10 years ago, and like it's been my home ever since. My kids speak French and English.
Oh gosh, I love it. You will never regret it. Never.
Thank you. I don't. I know I was meant to be here. Well,
so listen, we are talking about self-care today, and we are talking specifically, nice segue, right? We're talking specifically about caring for the soul.
Yes. Ooh.
Right. So I feel like already when you start talking about things that, you know, growing up in those places that we know so well and we love so dearly, and being able to go out into new experiences, new territories. We're talking about caring for the soul. In particular, we're talking about listening to God. So we're going to get there, right? We're going to get there. But before we do, after we've talked about our adventures of these nations and the warming of the hearts and the opening of our minds and our hearts, right? Because I think that's what these kinds of things do. Food. I know you like to cook. I've seen it on your Instagram.
I like to try to cook.
Okay, you like to try to cook. Fine, whatever. Right. But, you know, obviously you have an appreciation for these kinds of things. I think these are the things that open us up and allow us to start to really pay attention, which I think, and you can correct me if I'm wrong, but I think those are the things that allow us to listen a little better to each other. And then more importantly, even to God.
I agree 100%. And the reason when you said self-care, I giggled is because I took a shower this morning. And I'm not going to tell you how many days it had been since I took a shower. I have 3 children.
No judgment.
I'm not going to say how many days, but we said self-care. I was like, yes, because, you know, when people think self-care, they think massages and all these things. But that shower for me was so wonderful and special. I'm in the bathroom alone. One kid did come in there and use the facilities while I was there.
How old are these children, by the way?
14, 11, and 7.
All right. So just getting a picture of your household here. And you're a single mom, right? You're a single mom?
Yes. Okay. And I have a dog and 2 cats.
Oh, come on.
I know.
Okay.
I know. And all 3 of those, the furry ones are messy too.
I know.
And disrespectful. The cats, you know how they are. They're not like pets. They feel as if they're your landlord and you're disappointing them. So it's a lot going on. But yeah, self-care is it is everything. and soul care.
Soul care. Soul
Yes.
care. Okay. I want people to know who you are. Give me like Reader's Digest version of who Bunmi is. Who's this woman?
Oh my goodness.
Yeah.
Man. Okay.
No, and not your testimony yet. Not like, because
I
want to
will.
read, I'm going to read a couple clips from your book.
Okay.
So if that's okay with you. Yeah. Who are you?
No, I think, and this is going to sound so weird. I'm just going to say like what comes to my head. I feel like an 11-year-old girl inside, but on the outside, like I'm a woman, I'm a mother, and I love being a mother. I love helping other women and helping other mothers and just people. My heart is for people who feel alone. That's who I feel like I was put on this earth to help people who feel alone. And the way that I think that I've been able to do that is because I've walked that path. I have been in that deep ocean. And in some ways I still go there and still swim in there. And if I could just sum up what I think my mission in life, 'cause I believe everyone in life has a mission. I almost see myself as a deep sea diver who God helps to just go into those deep places and sit with people there, but also try to help bring them up and tell them you're not meant to live here forever.
Okay. I have to tell you, I just want to sit and just listen and listen and listen to that, because that's powerful. And it's desperately needed in our time. And I just actually, if you don't mind, I'm going to go right ahead and start. I just want people to hear, because I think one of your primary tools, right, is your writing.
Yes.
May I just read a short clip from your book?
Of course.
Oh my gosh. Okay. Dear God, honest prayers to a God who listens. This is just a little clip, just to piggyback on what you're saying, Bunmi. It's only when I leave our cozy home that I sometimes feel as if I walk between two worlds, a mainstream Christian one with whom I share a Messiah, and a mainstream Jewish one with whom I share a painful history. Daily life traditions, a relentless faith. It's not always easy, but I count myself blessed to finally know the peace that covers all circumstances. And if you told me 10 or 20 years ago that I'd say all this, I would have called you a liar. But all it takes is one encounter with the fisherman from a tiny, unimportant fishing village, a Messiah who loves like no one else, to be forever changed. I just want to stop there. Okay, so Bunmi, you've had some struggles in your life. Can you actually just unpack ever so slightly what you're talking about with the painful? You've got this Messiah with whom you're excited and have this moment, this wonderful, like, oh my gosh, I think we're talking about Jesus here.
Yes.
And then you've got also some painful history with the Jewish tradition. Can you share a little bit about that for our listener?
Yes. So I'll start at the beginning. I grew up in a Christian household, a very religious, like strict, religious household. And my parents, they're immigrants from Nigeria. So they came with very little. We were basically in poverty and surviving through the generosity of people. And my parents were like trying their best. And my mom was going back to school and my dad was studying the seminary. And at one point I have 3 siblings. At one point we were living, the 6 of us, in 1-bedroom apartment. Then we had a 2-bedroom, and very difficult. And of course, from that, with poverty, there's anger, there's strife, there's depression. And it was very difficult. I left home at 16, and my parents they really tried their best. They did, and they gave me a lot of tools that I have used today. But I left at home at 16, wandered, slept outside for a while, and then I slept on my friend's floor in her house. So I never felt connected to God. Don't even know if I really believed. Sometimes I would pray asking for an angel to hug me, I remember as a child, but I didn't really think that there was a God who cared about me. Like when you're going through hard things as a kid, if things are hard, you think, well, maybe they're hard because this is who I am and I'm not one of the lucky ones. And so later in high school, 16, I met my high school sweetheart who I ended up marrying, and he happened to be Jewish. And his family didn't force me to convert or anything. They were more like cultural, secular Jewish. They would, they went to synagogue on the high holy days. But I just started studying. I think I read this Elie Wiesel, a Holocaust survivor. Oh, I saw him speak once at a synagogue in LA. He passed, like, I believe it was 6 or 7 years ago. His heart, his soul, like,
yes.
I read Night.
Yes, of course.
And I began studying Judaism, and I just felt like I was coming home. I felt like, oh my goodness, these people who walked with God and sometimes would go away from God, and then he would go back and rescue them, and you'd feel God's anger. Why are you leaving me again? I've rescued you again. And then they're so sorry. And he's saying, you are my people, and this love relationship. And then I studied and I decided I was going to convert, and I didn't even have to, it wasn't required, but I just felt like I was coming home, and the traditions and the challah and the Shabbat and the candles, it just spoke to me and soothed me. And so I went through the process, and his family helped me with their synagogue, and I had a conversion teacher, and I went to the mikvah on my conversion day. It's almost like a baptism, and you go into the water, and that was just the best thing. And then I went to the synagogue, and you hold the Torah and you make these vows. It's almost like this marriage between you and God. It's like you're standing at Sinai. There's this belief that everyone who converts, that their soul was at Sinai that day when God gave and Moses gave the 10 commandments. And it felt like that. And so that began my Jewish life. And I was a Jewish wife, Jewish mother, and I would go on Friday nights, get ready for Shabbat. I'm shopping at the kosher market and everything. And then we moved to Montreal, and not soon after that, our marriage fell apart. And once again, I'm in this place where my faith was so tied to my marriage, where it was almost painful to have that Judaism. So I just kind of, in my mind, divorced from that too. And while I would go through the motions with the kids and everything, because this is who they are, I have no God, I have no faith, I have no people. Everything has collapsed. And at that point, I began studying everything: occult, paganism, anything that would give me power, fill me up. If I have nothing, then I need to be in control. And I need to learn how to manage the spiritual world and my life and the secret manifestation, all of this stuff. And what I tell you, it starts off all fun and games, but it gets dark very quickly. There were moments where I would be at night and I would feel things around me. I would feel like so much confusion and so much just this heaviness. And it could be daylight and sunny, but it would feel like I was walking in gloom. Oh my goodness, like I was spiraling bad.
I want to know, was there a time where you kind of bottomed out with all of this confusion and darkness?
I went to a synagogue in Montreal. It was a Friday night. Shabbat service had ended. Nobody was there. It was empty. It was dark. The only people were just security patrolling the outsides. I went in, door was opened, and I went in front of the bima where the Torah is. And I just said to God, like, I can't do it. I tried. I am not looking. I know he saw everything is falling apart. I need you. I know I need you now. I just came to him broken with nothing, like the prodigal son, but the prodigal daughter, and told him, I can't do it. Help me. And that became the journey of, in that moment, he reminded me of when I had been in the synagogue making those vows before him, holding the Torah. God doesn't yell because he doesn't have to yell. Your circumstances will yell, but he has this small, still voice that speaks to you in a place that no one else talks. And he will just remind you that he is here and that he's always been here and he's waiting. And he was reminding me that we had taken vows, basically, and that I had gone away, that he had never left me, but I had walked away. And he wasn't talking about a religion. He was talking about depending on him and that me being his God, because I had tried to fill where he was supposed to be with everything else. I was like that adulterous wife in Hosea.
Yeah, Gomer.
That was me, but I didn't realize it.
If I asked you, what do women need most? What would you say? A makeover? The perfect partner? A child? A career? I don't think so. What we women need most is to step into who God has already declared we are. That's why I want to tell you about my free download called to Confidence. This 20-day guide gives you the 20 ways that you can reclaim your identity from the details that get you sidetracked, like your home, your career, and your relationships. Plus, there's plenty of journaling space so you can reflect on the ways that God is helping you grow into a strong woman of grace. My hope is that these confidence builders breathe life into your soul and help you remember your God-given power. You can download your copy of Call to Confidence through the link in today's show notes at nancyhickslive.com/podcast.
So fast forward, one day I'm standing in my home. I go to the patio. And because I've been asking God, I was saying, okay, we're talking now. I'm praying now, but I have a question. Jesus, who is he? I just want to know because I feel like I would sometimes feel this voice calling me. And it wasn't like God. It was like God, but it felt different.
Is it a feeling? What was the feeling?
I'm telling you, it almost sounded like a cross between a feeling and a voice. And it sounded far but near. And it was calling me like a daughter.
So you're hearing words?
Yes, but not like in a sound in my ear. And so I asked him, I was like, who is he? And I'm standing on my patio, looking out on the green grass, the community kind of grass, and I felt this presence behind me. All of a sudden, I felt this presence behind me. It felt bigger than me, but not overpowering. It felt like the most kindest, gentlest, but powerful and loving, the love that is not in this world. It is, but it's not it's not even the most purest love I think of, maybe like motherhood or fatherhood. It wipes that away because that love has fear and expectation. This love is different. This love is a love that it can exist on its own, needs nothing, but wants you, and this love and this kindness, because I've never felt strength and power and love and kindness like that before. And in that moment, I knew it was him because he doesn't have to say a word. And I knew because he doesn't have to say a single word. He doesn't have to say his name. If he's in your presence, you know who he is. The air sings of himself. He doesn't have to do a thing. Like when I think of this moment, I don't have enough words and my skin starts to feel tingly.
Well, I'm getting emotional as you're talking when I start to hear even his name, right? And I know exactly what you're talking about when he's just showing up and you're sitting in prayer, in your prayer chair or wherever the heck you are, anywhere in the world. And all of a sudden you feel like, holy cow.
He's so beautiful.
And it's a shivering sometimes.
You want him to stay with you always. You know that you would go from this life to the next life to wherever. I understand now why people just left what they were doing and followed him because you would do that. You would do that. Oh, he's like nothing else.
Yeah.
Some people I know they say like they feel like he's not here. I don't feel him. But that emptiness that you feel is calling for him because there's a place inside of you that is calling for him. It's not about having a moment where he's going to like say you are mine. It doesn't always work yet. That emptiness, that fear, that longing is calling for him because his fingerprints are all over you. He made you. So you will call for him. Your soul will call for him.
I love that, Bunmi. One of the things I was thinking about this morning, as I was thinking about this interview, this time with you, I was thinking about how beautifully honest you are and how utterly critical it is for us to be so honest. I mean, again, your book is called Dear God, Honest Prayers to a God who listens. So God listens, right?
He listens. He doesn't just listen. He's not passive. He's not like a therapist who's just like taking notes. He listens to you and he will act for you. He will move for you. He will help you. He will heal you. He will change things for you, but go to him. It's like with your kids. If your kids came to you and let's say they're going through the worst thing ever and they're like, Mother, I am experiencing a difficulty. You'd be like, okay, talk to me for real. But when they come to you and they are like covered in snot and crying, and sometimes, when kids, like little toddlers, they'll get mad, they'll take a swing at you because they are just mad and they want to lash out. And you get it. Like, even as parents, we have our limits where we get kind of mad. I'm telling you that God can take it.
Absolutely.
He can take whatever you can bring to him.
Yes.
I tried everything before I went back to him. Everything. A human being that would offend. God's like, I'm ready for you.
I'm ready.
No, I've been waiting.
I'm ready.
I've been waiting. I've been sitting here like the prodigal son's father, looking at the horizon, waiting for you.
So here's the thing. So I want to just read this beautiful prayer from your book. Okay. You ready for it?
I'm ready. Yes.
Listen, dear God, sometimes, all the time, daily, every 5 minutes, I look at the world and know exactly why you flooded it. Me. Okay. Profound, poignant, gorgeous.
Thank you.
Bunmi, I'm so sad that we are putting so many flippin' barriers between God and a person who is going, my life is in the whatever. I can't even say it, right? I'm a Christian speaker, but I'm like, my life is hell right now. The world has gone mad. It's nuts. And I can't see Jesus. I can't see God. I can't hear his voice. Would you please speak into that for us? Because I think you get it. I know you get it. Would you talk to that person?
Yes. There's this story in the Brit Hadashah is called the New Covenant, the New Testament. In the Hebrew, they call it the Brit Hadashah. Brit means covenant, and Hadashah is new. And there's this story of Peter. And Peter was like, I might get some things wrong because I'm not like perfect at all this stuff.
Right.
And so he was like, ride or die for Yeshua, for Jesus. He was like, ride or die. He wanted to do everything for him. But he messed up sometimes, like we all do. And there's this one time where Yeshua's on the shore. No, Yeshua's in the water. He's coming out on the water. Anyway, so it's just tumultuous. There's like waves and water is scary. It's deep, right? And so Peter starts walking out on the water to meet his Messiah and his friend who he wants to be with so bad, and he's missing and everything. And all of a sudden he starts to sink and he starts to fall down because he takes his eyes off of Jesus. He starts to sink and he's afraid because he's going to go down and into the depth and drown and die. But Yeshua reaches down and pulls him up and talks to him about his faith. Like, what happened? Like with your faith. And the thing is, we have to look at him. Because if we look at this world and what's going on, if we look at our house and our home that's messy and our bills, if we look at our marriage, not to say we close our eyes and don't see these things anymore. If we look at like our lives and how it's messy and the news, if that's what our focus is on, we will sink. There's this psalm, my favorite psalm is 121. It says, I will lift my eyes unto the hills from whence cometh my help. My help comes from the Lord who created heaven and earth. It's like, we have to lift our eyes to the heavens, to the hills, to God, to Yeshua, because everything around us is screaming defeat. Everything around us is screaming that we have to give up. And it's better to die than to be here. But he's saying, no, I have a plan and I love you. We have to lift our eyes. We have to.
You talked about it at the very top of our time together, that there's this ebb and flow of we mess up big time, we come back to God. We mess up, we come back. We mess up, we come back. And so I just really feel like we're living in a time not too dissimilar to other times and other generations and other eras where the people of God have put their hope so desperately in other things.
Yes.
Right? With your children, raising children, big deal. With the cacophony of noise, with the chatter, clamor, all this stuff coming at us all the time, how are you training those kids to hear the voice of God and know that is God?
We talk about Abba. We call him Abba, like father. Abba in Hebrew almost means like daddy. Like,
it is daddy.
Yeah,
Abba.
I know.
Abba.
Because that's who he is. He's not just a father. He's dad. I know it sounds so crazy because he's on this throne, but he's Abba. And we talk about him as Abba. We talk about Jesus as Yeshua as if they are in our home all the time. Of course, like, before we eat, we have a Jewish household. We have a Jewish household that believes in Yeshua as Messiah. We say the brachot before we eat, Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech. We say, blessed are you, Lord our God, King of the universe, who made this food, who brought this food. We say when we're going through something, when they're upset, okay, yes, you're upset. Let's pray. Abba, help us. We're losing patience. This thing isn't working. This Zoom, we can't do it. When there's tutoring today, I know you're upset. Come here. I'm going to hug you. And I listen to the Ruach HaKodesh, the Holy Spirit, to help me know how to parent them. I know where I end. I don't have even the patience to be a mother. It's literally him all the time who's helping in this house. We really have to train these children. Every day we watch, even practical ways on YouTube, we watch things like Superbook and Bible stories, these things that talk about these stories and things Yeshua did, miracles. We talk about his heart, because there will be a lot of people who tell you about Jesus and they talk about him in a way that hurts you, or in a way that makes you think something that he wasn't. He loved people. He stood up for people. He stood up for women who they wanted to stone, even if she was in the wrong. They said, okay, the person who doesn't have a sin, cast the first stone. He fed people. Before he fed them with words, he fed them with food. He understood our needs. And that's how we talk about him. He wants to love you. He wants to help you. When you have a problem, talk to him.
That's absolutely right. And I think what you just said a moment ago, I find really bang on, that we go back to when we're trying to hear the voice of God again, cutting through all of this stuff. Sometimes, you don't need to, yeah, you're taking a walk. Yeah, you're going out on a bike ride. Yeah, you're doing what you do, go climb a tree, get away from it all, right? I love what you said, Bunmi, about, help us, God. And also to go back to the very texts, the very prayers, the very scripture that will speak to your soul, ground your soul again, bring you back to, maybe those were the things from your past. Maybe they were a distant past, or maybe not, but they're still in there. They're in your lexicon. They're there. And to go back to those texts, to go back to those prayers, to go back to those hymns, to go back to those things again. That sounds like what you said. Is that right?
Yes. If you could afford only to either buy a Bible or my book, buy a Bible, because there's the talking to God, yes, but his word, it's not just a book. It is alive. It is alive. When I tell you, believe me, that his spirit and his word are in these pages, and they will minister to your soul and your spirit. Yes, their sermons are amazing. Yes, books about God. Yes, and I listen to hymns. Sometimes there's this song like Chris Tomlin I love. It's called Good, Good Father, and it speaks to me. But open up his word and read those Psalms. Read King David's Psalms. He was messy. Oh my goodness. I love him because he was messy. And Jesus called him a man after God's own heart, because there's so much happening. People, believers, they get caught up in this president, and we have to defend. Listen, it says the battle is not against flesh and blood, but principalities and high places. These are spiritual things that need spiritual answers. We are not called to be of this world. Yes, we have to live in it. But if every day we don't look to the hills, if every day we don't look to him and focus on him, we will sink, and quickly.
So where would you land one thing? So what? Why does soul care vis-a-vis hearing the voice of God? Why does that matter so much, Bunmi?
Because it's the only thing. One day your soul will return to him. This life, it seems so long, it's so hard, but it's going to pass like the blink of an eye. And one day this body will go, your home won't mean anything to you, and you're going to be standing before him. And you want to stand before him as his child. And even in this life, you won't get through it. You can't get through it without him. I need him every moment of the day. And I'm telling you, going through it with him is night and day. Going through it without him, talk to him. Read his word and talk to him and tell him, I need you. I don't even know who you are. If you don't even know who he is, I don't know who you are. I don't know if I can trust you, because the religious people have hurt me, because religion scares me, because I'm scared that it's going to control me, or it's going to make me someone that I don't recognize. I don't trust religion. That's okay. I don't trust religion. Like,
neither do I. Neither do I.
But you can trust God, and you can trust Yeshua. Tell him that you're scared, but you want to know more, and you want to know the truth. Go to him like a baby. You're his baby, and he loves you. He wants you, and he's not going to hurt you. He's not going to hurt you.
Bunmi, you are a beautiful woman, and you are a woman who isn't giving me platitudes.
I don't have any
You're
left.
not, right? No, I don't want it. It's like, get rid of it. I don't care. Don't talk to me like that. Don't give me Christianese.
I don't even know how to speak it.
Do it. I know. I can still weave it in now and again. Trust me. Sometimes I do, and I don't mean to, but I'm like, oh, there it is. There it is. But it's, sometimes it's my native language, I confess, but I'm working on it, and I absolutely love your honesty. I love that you are on the front lines. I love that you put it out there in words, in your books. How can people stay connected to you going forward? This is one podcast.
I'm on Facebook at facebook.com/Bunmi K Laditan, which is like really hard to spell. It's BUNMIK LADITAN.
And they'll be in the show notes. And
okay,
there's only one of you, precious one. When I went looking, I was like, oh yeah, it pops up right away.
I love it.
Yeah.
Instagram. I use Instagram as Honest Toddler because I used to write as the character Honest Toddler.
Hilarious.
And then the books are going to be online, like Chapters Indigo or Amazon, Walmart.com, Target.com, which is really exciting. And
Target.
In indie bookstores too, of course. Always support, like if you have a local bookstore that does stuff, because I know those bookstores are struggling. So for them too.
Oh, you're a doll. Thank you so much for being with me on So What? Why It Matters. I appreciate you. Isn't she lovely? Absolutely lovely. She's this young single mother of 3 who's raw and real and gets it. She gets how caring for your soul involves facing your story, looking at your story, unpacking your story, and facing who you are and pouring it out, knowing God does want to hear it. And here's a so what moment I found when I was talking to Bunmi. She reminded me again, and maybe you feel the same way, of how utterly simple hearing God's voice actually can be. When the world is noisy and intrusive and insisting and wacky, sit again or review and play the old songs, the old prayers, the old texts steeped in a tradition of Judaism and Christianity, and hear God's voice in a new, fresh, affectionate way. If it's confusing and it's full of strife and it's unkind and condemning, here's a tip. That is not the voice of God. I want to say a big thanks to my podcast team at 4eyes Media for helping me bring this episode to you today. That's Amy Kerr, my producer, Caitlin Hine, who books our fabulous guests, and our executive producer, Laura Kneitzling. And I want to thank you for being with us today. Join me for another great self-care conversation next week. And until then, live for what matters.
Thanks for joining Nancy for another episode of So What? Why It Matters. Come back next week for more lively conversation and answers to those so what moments in your life. And be sure to subscribe to the So What podcast on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Stitcher, or wherever you get your podcasts. And if you like the show, please give us a review and tell us why. And if you don't, as Nancy would say, so what? Just kidding. All your reviews matter. So until next time, live for what matters.